Hey, insight number 5, last one for this week. So let's wrap up Articles of Faith, Declaration 1 and 2, Official Declaration 1 and 2, and let's put it like this. How do these help us? All of these things, all of that, what we've read, what we've studied, what we've been looking at this week, how does these things, these revelations, these scriptures, these declarations, help us now to receive revelation and testimony of a living prophet who guides us? Because Joseph Smith, living prophet, wrote the Articles of Faith. Wilford Woodruff did the end of plural marriage, and President Kimball did the end of blacks not being able to have priesthood ordinations and hold the priesthood. So these were living prophets that guided people. How does these scriptures, these things that we've read this week, help us receive a testimony of revelation and a living prophet to guide us? All right? So by studying the Articles of Faith and learning about revelation process, because we can see that in the notes that they made, learning about that revelation process, the church goes into church policy. So we're not talking about personal revelation, we're talking about revelation for the entire church. It is not a small thing, because we're talking millions of people, tens of millions of people, right? A lot of people, huge membership. So you can't just flick a switch and have a change. You've got to think about the cultural differences and how it's going to work in different countries, and have we got it in all the languages, and what's going to work in Brazil is not going to work in Australia. Maybe it will, maybe it won't work in Utah. So you can't just change something. A great lot of thought goes into it, a great lot of prayer and supplication, not just from our prophet, but from all our prophets, because they are all prophets, seers, and revelators. So the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12. They work tirelessly, and believe me, they consult their wives and they consult the sister leaders of the church, because these things are important. Talking about, I'm getting goosebumps. I know President Nelson talks to the Young Women's and the Relief Society leaders and the primary leaders. He values their opinions as much as anybody else that he's talking to. And I think that's brilliant. It's amazing. So they take a lot of effort into these things. So we can take that knowledge of a prophet that cannot steer us in the wrong direction. So we know there is safety in following the prophet. Wilford Woodruff said that. He said that in that process of ending plural marriage, that if he were to go in that direction, he would be removed as prophet, because it's not what the Lord wanted. So we know that if our prophet was to lead us in a direction that was his opinion or the popular people's choice or whatever, and not the Lord's direction, he will be removed as prophet. So it's comforting to know that our prophet really does actually, and very much in supplication and prayer and pleading, follow what the Lord wants him to do. It's something we could all be better at, but we know that our prophet does it, and there's great safety in that, and following the prophet, even though he's imperfect. He's a wonderful man, but he is imperfect. So was the last one, so will the next one. And so are we. We're imperfect as well. If you're going to think you're going to pick on the prophet, because he said this or he did this wrong, and what have you done wrong today? I almost forgot prayers this morning. I swore earlier when I walked into the wall. Apologize for that. But we're imperfect too. Just like the prophet. I don't think the prophet's going to swear. He's probably a lot better at that than I am. However, right? We're all trying, and we can all do better at listening to Jesus Christ and the direction he wants us to go. But I just wanted to really stress that the amount of time, thought, preparation, supplication, humbling, praying, the hours that these brethren and sisters spend before anything gets changed is huge. So if you don't like a change, you need to work on that, because those changes come from Christ and they are led divinely. And you can misinterpret them. I'm not saying it's all your fault, but it's just something that you need to look at, because there's been changes that happen that I'm like, I don't know about that. Because I loved all the earrings in my ear, and I'll talk about that one a lot, but I still took them out But, that's up to you. If you want to wear more, then go ahead. I'm not going to judge you on that. I'm doing me. And for me, that rang true. I didn't like it. I would like more tattoos, but I don't know. So, that's up to you. I'm not perfect at it. I'm not saying you have to be either. But if you've got something that comes out like that as a direction for the entire church and you don't like it, then it's from the Lord. So you really need to talk to the Lord about it and sort that out between you and the Lord. Okay? So we can know that our own struggles and what to do are also heard and answered. So as far as personal revelation goes, if the Lord's going to answer these big topics that they have to do, our little things that we come up with, although they're big to us, He will listen and answer those too. And that's really cool. We know that they are. I've seen them. I'm sure you have too. Sometimes it's not straight away, right? We've got to wait, but it does happen. So yeah, although these declarations cover controversial issues, we also face many controversial issues every day, every single day. Right now there's one around, people judging other people for not wearing garments or wearing garments, and what anyone else wears is actually none of your business. You worry about yourself. But there's a lot of that going on. But I'm my brother's keeper. I must talk to them about it. No, you actually don't need to. Your brother, you can talk to them about it without actually talking to them about it. And prayerfully do that. Don't just rush in and have an opinion. It's all right to have an opinion, but is it helpful? Think about, who said that? Like, before you speak, is it helpful? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Right? Because I could certainly do better at that. I speak a lot of stuff that's really just not necessary and not appropriate sometimes. That's kind of my lack of filters and where I go with my Asperger's. But anyway, kind of makes me fun to be around too, because stuff just comes out and a lot of times it's just hilariously funny. Anyway, so we have controversial issues every day as well. These scriptures help us see answers, growth, and continued revelation. So to know that there was continued revelation around that, there are sticky issues today, and there is continued revelation around that. Will the church continue to change? Yes, it will, because it is a church of change and growth and continued revelation. We are not a church that is stagnant and stuck. We have the same gospel principles, but they're very simple. And as far as policy changes and continued revelation, that will continue to happen. So stay tuned, because it's just going to get exciting and different, and keep it fresh, right? These help us to see growth and continued revelation. History is what we learn from to become better. So look at ways that you can do that based on what we learned this week. So how can you become better from what you learned this week? Instead of being bitter about either of those topics, or something in the articles of faith that may have triggered something for you, don't be bitter about it. How can you be better about it? How can you look at this in a better way? How can you teach this to your children in a better way, so that they're better and that they don't have those same judgments that maybe your parents or your grandparents might have had? Because we don't need those. We need to be Christ-like, and Christ-like is looking at everybody equally, loving everyone equally. Doesn't mean we have to be besties with everyone. It's not what it says. No, it's just about having that care and compassion for everybody, even when they're grumpy, even when they're old, even when they need extra help. It doesn't matter. It's about helping other people and being kind, doing what you can. Elder Uchtdorf, he said, the scriptures and the words of modern day apostles and prophets are the sources of wisdom, divine knowledge, and personal revelation to help us find answers to all challenges in life. So if you need answers, and I have done this, as I said earlier, I start with the articles of faith, because that is a really good base. Remind myself that I am built on the rock of Christ. That's where I built. It is solid and strong. And then I deep dive into gospel topic essays and scriptural links, and I go from there. I tend to not Google things like that. No, because that just, unless I'm looking for a specific conference talk or something, because that can just lead you to people's opinions, and you don't need people's opinions. You need truth, and truth is found in the scriptures. It can be interpreted wrong. It can be interpreted differently, and that's okay. But on your journey in finding and becoming and growing, how can you take what you've learned this week and do better. Yeah, that's my message for that. So, thank you for joining us this week. I'm sorry that last one went particularly long, but there's just such juicy stuff in there and good stuff to learn from. It really just teaches us that, revelation is constant in our lives and as far as the church goes. Remember that we get personal revelation and the prophet gets revelation for the church. And he's got to deal with it. So, and these things are years in the process, right? We didn't just suddenly go to 2-hour church. It wasn't just we're sick of doing that, let's just go to 2-hour church. That was a long time in the planning, the logistics around it. Is it going to affect whoever in whatever country, and what are we going to do there? And, how do they deal with COVID and missionaries and mission calls? It's a constant thing for them. They work really, really hard. And I'm so glad that we have a living prophet and a chain of, succession that it will never disappear again. Those priesthood powers and the keys that they hold will never disappear from this earth again. And that is so comforting to me. That continued revelation happens for our good and to do that. So yeah, again, apologize for the length, but I hope you stayed with me to hear that testimony, because I do have it. I have a very strong testimony, not only of Jesus Christ, but of a living prophet. And the one we have right now is perfect for right now in our time. So listen to that counsel from him. There is safety in that. There is peace in that. And he will not lead you astray. 100% will not lead you astray. So enjoy the weekend. Stay safe out there. Join us again next week. It's going to be beautiful. Love you guys. Bye.